Welcome everyone to Dataedo Talks today. We're going to have a good session today, I hope. We got some more people joining. So I'll share my screen again. So today we're going to follow the agenda that we've set up the last few sessions. We'll start with a tip, kind of hints of how to use Dataedo, maybe things that perhaps you're not using, maybe because you didn't know it existed or didn't know how to use it, something like that, and talk about ways it can help you. Following that, we'll go through introductions like we did several weeks ago. Just an opportunity to briefly introduce yourself to the group and get to know each other better. And then following that, we'll have the discussion, which will be about using domains to improve access to Portal. And then finally, if at the end, if Piotr is here, we'll ask him for future development of Dataedo with regards to workflows that are upcoming. All right, so the first thing here is we're going to talk about AI-supported documentation. Presumably, a lot of you know that this exists. I'm not going to get into the details of how to set it up here. It's an easy configuration. Whoever is the administrator of your Portal installation can go into the settings in here in system settings and set that up using your own API key to OpenAI. But you set that up using your own, and then it becomes available to those people who have editor permissions here in the portal. It's not available in desktop. It's in Portal only. The AI-supported documentation is available to very quickly populate descriptions or generate descriptions for glossary terms, KPIs, tables and their columns, views and their columns. So you can quickly get content in there and begin to work with it. So for an example of how this works, I'm just going to go here to subject matter expert. And you can see here, we already have a description, but either in cases where you don't have a description or you want to beef up the description that you have there, you can use this AI supported documentation to do that. So it's right here. I've already set this up, so I have this button available. If it's not set up, you would not have this button. That's kind of your clue to show you whether or not it's available. But to do this, you just click on that button right there, and it will connect out there to ChatGPT OpenAI and come back with a AI generated description for you. Once you have this, you can save it. You can save it and replace your existing description. You can save it to another field that I'll show you in a minute, where you can use it for a reference to check your current description, see if you want to make any changes to it. It's just more information there. You can edit this. So if there's parts of this description you don't like, you can edit that before you save it. You can also just discard it if you don't like it. So let's say we didn't like this description, but we still want one. We can run this again and give it another try. Notice that's a shorter description there. Sometimes it'll be shorter, sometimes it'll be longer. It's just the way AI works there. It will come back with another attempt. And again, you can do that as many times as you like until you get a description that you like. I'm not going to save this. You can do this. Here's another example. Here we've got one for description, a very short, terse, basically meaningless description here for department. So we can hopefully come up with a better description there. This is, again, more information. Hopefully it gives something that's useful to be able to generate and get knowledge into your glossary or your data dictionary very quickly. As I mentioned, this does work for tables and columns and views and columns as well. Now, an example of where we have this saved, notice I had for this shopping cart, I had a description right there. We ran this, and here is the AI generated version. We can see right there, we have text. Again, you can use this as reference to edit or change the regular description as much as you wanted. And if you don't like this one, or if you're done with it, you can simply delete it and either start over or just be done and be satisfied with the description you have. But this is a way you can very quickly get content in there for your glossary and for your tables and columns, your views and columns, very quickly generating content for your catalog. Now, the question that I sometimes get is what information is actually sent to OpenAI for them to look at? And the answer is right here. So you can see what information is sent from Dataedo out there to OpenAI to create those descriptions. And of course, the more information you have in these, the better the description is going to be that comes back. Especially when you look over here, things like related terms, description, stuff like that. It helps build context to for it to generate the description that it sends back. But notice that no data is sent. It's only metadata that is sent to OpenAI. But that is the list of what is sent to them. Any questions about the OpenAI or about the AI supported documentation feature here? So for the main part of the talk today, we're going to talk about using domains. A month ago, roughly, we talked about some alternative ways of structuring your domains to match what works in your company. We're gonna touch on that today a little bit, but we're gonna go deeper into how domains help your users to find and access the information that they need within Dataedo. Of course, the purpose of domains is to facilitate that access, to make it easier for your users to find what they need to do their jobs, whether they're business users looking for information or IT or technical folk who need just to find the portion of the repository that is pertinent to their job, whatever they're working with, responsible for. So the idea is focus the user's attention where it needs to go, and not expect them to understand the entire data landscape. That's really the thing here is we don't want to force any of the users to understand everything. That's just too much information. So what we have here is these business domains and data domains that create this logical layer, a presentation layer that sits between the users and the data catalog and gives them access to that part of the catalog that's appropriate for their job. So I'm signed in here as a administrator, actually. So I see all of the business domains and all of the data domains. The idea here is, again, to focus the user's attention where it needs to be so that they have access to what they need and they're not distracted by a lot of other information that is too much or extraneous to their job. Make it easy for them to find what's appropriate for them. So the suggestion that I always make for how to structure your domains is business domains are generally structured around departments within your organization. Data domains are generally structured around data products. So, things like these applications here under the e-commerce, it allows people to find the part of the catalog that's pertinent to them. Again, I'm signed in here as administrator, so I see everything, but a a individual user, you would create permissions so it focuses them to the right place. So going back here to these ideas, the first one here is the domain structure. Create a structure that makes sense to the users in your organization. Sometimes that is departments, other times it's something else. As we talked about a month ago, there are lots of different paradigms you can use here. For some people, it's built around products or applications that you provide to customers. Other times it's around processes. Come up with the paradigm, the organization that makes sense for your organization, and test it. If you can, get business users, for example, have talk to them about how they would want to access data in the data catalog, metadata in the data catalog. Talk to them, see what their point of view is, and how that organization might make sense to them. As I mentioned over here, this one is set up around departments. So within the finance department, a user may come in and recognize, or actually they would be permitted to see the finance domain here. They wouldn't even see the rest of these. But when they get in here, they would recognize the different teams in the finance department, and they would click on the one that's appropriate to them. For example, if they're in accounting, they would click there. They would see that they've got these that are built around processes within that team, and they could quickly click on the one they're interested in and start immediately to get to that information. The idea is get them in there with as few clicks as possible. Don't make them search. Don't make them wonder where to find that. So the best way is to talk to those users and try to get inside their head to understand what they expect and what makes sense to them. So that's this first one. Use a paradigm that makes sense for your organization. Like I say, sometimes it's departments, other times it could be something else. Make sense to your users. The next one is the permissions that I've mentioned a couple of times. So let's go ahead and look at permissioning over here. So right now, as I mentioned, I am signed in as an administrator. I see everything. The idea is for the person who has admin privileges here to use user management, excuse me, to create groups that give users the proper scope and the proper access. So for example, notice here I've got these four groups set up: marketing and sales domain, marketing area, product area, sales area. I just want to show you what it looks like when someone signs in one of these groups. So I'm going to sign out right here, and I will sign back in with one of these test accounts right here. So here's one, test for product. And when I sign in, they don't have access to user management. So of course they're not going to see that, but they're assigned to the product group here. So that is the one they see, that subject area. And when they get in here, they have access to all of those objects that have been linked to that group. Let's go back and try another one. I go back here, log out. Let's try that one. This is actually a group for sales. Let me come in here, and there we see they have access to the sales subject area. So you can send people directly to the information and part of the catalog that's appropriate to them. Again, that's done in the user management, which I don't have because here I'm not an administrator, but it put them directly in the area that's appropriate to them. Now I'm going to sign out, and I'm going to back up to a higher level. I'm going to use this test account right there. This one actually has their permission was granted at this marketing and sales domain area. Notice they also have access to the child groups there. So access is in, permission there is inherited. They have access to this, they automatically have access to those things within that. So it is inherited. Now, let's say that we have a user that we want to put into more than one group. I'm going to log out, go back in as administrator. And let's say this user, let's find, I don't know, Andrew, somebody. We can go in here and we choose what groups they are part of. So I may not want to give him access to all of the marketing, but I could give him access to, for example, product and sales, not marketing subject area. So you can put people in more than one group. And then when I do this, he would have access to that portion of that domain, not the whole thing, not the marketing area, but the product area and the sales area. So you can combine those. Piotr?
Yeah, you're mentioning groups. That's one way of adding permissions. Another one is the permission stuff, because groups are, we had a long discussion about this. So user can, you are in the group, just like, yeah. You can be in multiple groups, but permissions work, permissions are roles assigned to specific assets. So for instance, domain, right? So we can do it through this on a more granular level. So it's good to be aware of that.
Yeah,
because
you have various levels of ways to create this permission to assign people and allow them what they want to see there. Let's see, do we have a comment in the chat? Okay. Yeah, so as far as setting up these groups that I'm mentioning, this is done over here. Again, this is by an administrator. So for example, this marketing area, this was done by creating that group. And then under permissions here, I defined right here, I told it which subject area would be the scope. So you see I chose marketing there. And then within that, I chose what that group's role would be. In this case, they're data community members. They can't edit, but they can leave comments and interact with the catalog. So that's where you set up that scope. I don't need to make any changes here. But once you have that, they're available to assign users to. As I mentioned, let's see, this one right here has access to that marketing and sales domain. So there are various levels of permission and various methods of creating and assigning them to users.
Also another, so those permissions using roles are more flexible, like more granular. But the advantage of groups is that you can import them from Active Directory, so you don't have to manage it here. So both have
so you can coordinate or align the groups you create here with your Active Directory groups. So for example, someone in marketing and sales, they're in that group in Active Directory, they would automatically be put into the correct group here when they create their account and log in. So thanks for reminding me on that. All right.
Sorry to interrupt, but could you please tell me more about Active Directory? Am I audible to you?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't catch it.
Could you please tell me more about Active Directory? I didn't get that point.
Okay, with Active Directory, you can coordinate your users here with your Active Directory users and groups. So basically, if a user is in Active Directory in, for example, the finance group in Active Directory, they would be automatically associated with a finance group. Here's one right there. Once they get into Portal. So the Active Directory group tells which group in Portal they would be assigned to.
we have
Oh.
a utility called Active Directory Kit or AD Kit. It's a
Mhm.
external software that you configure to synchronize Active Directory with Dataedo user database every couple of minutes.
Yeah, that
Oh,
is
okay.
available on the website in here. Down here, the ad kit is right there. If you need help with that, of course, talk to our support team, and the support team can help you get that configured and working for your installation of Portal.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
All right. Let's see where we're at. Okay, so permissions are inherited, and you can, I put stack here, but you can have multiple, you can have a person in multiple groups to create the amount of permission that you want them to have. So you have pretty flexible permissions here. I don't want to imply that you have to have separate groups for all of your people. For example, your editors, you may very well want them, let's see, here's my editors right there. You may want to just give them access to the entire repository. Makes it easy that way. On the other hand, you may want to give specific editors access to particular database connections or containers here. You could do it at that level, or you could do it at the group, at the domain or area level. So you have different levels there depending on what you want them to have access to. So you have a lot of flexibility there. I think I implied in at least one of the domain training videos that everybody will be put into these domain groups. That I didn't mean to imply that. You can have these other levels as well. Basically, there's multiple levels depending on how much access you want these people to have. In other words, make it easy for the admin to manage these things. So you don't have to put people in so many groups, make a bigger group that gives them the access they need. Okay, domain functionality. Got a couple of ideas here. Let's go back over here. And if I go to domains, let's look at, again, this one. And if I come here, the first idea here is this idea of important assets. Notice in the list, I'm on the domain. Notice in this list of assets, we have stars by some of these. And those were marked as important assets. So they float to the top of this list. Notice I have 28 terms here. And when it loads, those three I've marked as important. So they're the top of the list. Anything that you have marked as important will show on this list here. So it's not limited to three. There can be more there. There is a minimum of three. So notice here in acronyms, I have two important and one that's not marked as important, but to round out that list to three, I've got that. Categories, there is only one. So we have only one. But the idea here is to bring to the forefront those objects that you think are very important. A use for this that I've heard of is onboarding new employees, where you may have for their area, they may have 20 or 30 or 40 terms or concepts that they need to become familiar with, but you probably want them to start with a particular 5 that are most important. Mark those as most important, and they're right there, ready for them to see and start learning about. So bring those things that are most important to the forefront and present them right here on that front page. Now, as far as marking things as important, you go, notice these are open stars, means they were not marked as important at this level. They were marked as important at a child level. So it's actually here, I believe. There they have solid stars, and you can mark them here. So if I wanted to add something else as important, company, for example, I just click the star and mark it as important so that it then becomes the important object at the top of this list. So notice right there, I just clicked on, I don't know, I think I clicked on customer right there. But it comes up to the top of that list and is immediately available. No, I clicked on company. It was that one. Comes to the top of this list and is available and presented as important to your users. Piotr?
We're working on adding favorites to one of the future releases. So you will be able to add any object to your favorites, right? And there will be some list of favorite objects. This is like on the catalog level, what Richard is showing, but we'd also like to give a favorites objects functionality at some point.
Good, good. Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, the important objects is at a global level. It's set up by an editor and or an administrator, whereas the favorites would be specific to individual users. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, and we'll add some widgets, some list where it will be easier to access your favorite objects on the homepage somewhere.
Yep, yep. Good, good. Yeah, that'll be helpful to get people, back to where they were previously working or with those things that are most important for them. So yeah, good point. Thanks. Let's see. Next, I've got the descriptions themselves. Yeah, so if we go back here, once you get into an area here, give the people enough information to actually understand, what they're looking at. So here we've got the description for the marketing and sales domain, which was based on the department. And here is that information that gives them the context to understand what they're looking at here. Same thing for marketing. Here we go. I guess that one doesn't have a description. But as we get in here, be sure and give good descriptions, robust descriptions, so that people understand what they're looking at. Again, the whole idea here is to give them the understanding without the need to go to an expert and ask them questions. You want them to use this as the single source of truth here. So, yeah, domains and area descriptions. Next is searching. No doubt searching is going to be very important to your users. So let's just go look at searching. If we go to the advanced search, and I have a couple of examples here. What I did is I defined some subject matter expert and owner content here. So if I search for the owner right here as Barbara, there she is. And I see the 4 business domains where she has been marked as the owner of that content. Very easy to get to that. I also defined some where I'm looking for, let's remove that, where I'm looking for the subject matter expert. So I assigned Joe as subject matter expert. Notice it found nothing because it's searching in the name of the object. I have to tell it to search the subject matter expert custom field. And there we see there are 4 domains where John has been entered as the subject matter expert. Now, just for fun, let's do this as a combination. There's Barbara. There's one place where Barbara is the owner and John is the subject matter expert. Can very easily get to that. You can use this refined search obviously in a lot of places to refine your search and get exactly to the information you need. Now, while I'm here, what I want to do is go ahead. I'm going to remove that one. Now notice Barbara is the owner of 4 domains. And let's look at this and see what happens when I log in as a user with restricted permission. Notice 3 of these are in finance, 1 is in marketing. So let's go ahead and sign in that way. Log out here, sign in as that one, I believe. And we're going to search for Barbara as the owner. There. And it comes back with only that one domain where this group has access to that information. All of those others, it's as if they didn't exist. So you don't have to worry about people searching and getting access to something that they're not supposed to have access to. That is limited here. So that permissioning works with your search functionality to restrict, I shouldn't say restrict, to target people towards the most important things that are valid for them to see. Okay, any questions at this point?
So Alexander is asking if we could open the object from the context of the domain rather than link to the source and open it into the context of the source. Yeah, it makes sense. I had similar observations. We don't currently have an idea how to do it. We had an how to do it so that we don't break the UX and an interface. We had something similar to this in our HTML export, which you can still export your documentation. But the issue with that was that then when you search, the same object has more than one page and more than one context, which is also a bit confusing. So yeah, we don't currently have a easy way to do it, not to break something else.
Right. Yeah, that's the reason why the domains are a logical layer rather than a physical layer, so you can put objects in multiple locations. Question du jour, apart from business domains, is there another way to organize or link business categories? I would want to think about that. Off the top of my head, the thing that comes to mind is you could use custom fields to tag different objects to different business categories or processes. That's the way I would think of it. I'd have to think deeper to see if there's other ideas. Do you have an idea, Piotr?
Yeah, business glossaries, right? So we can use a glossary to organize the concepts into hierarchy and then link assets to those terms. That's actually the way our customers used it before we had domains. So another option.
Okay. Yeah, and of course, what we're talking about there is going into the glossary, having a glossary category or term or something, and then finding the objects that are linked to that. This one doesn't have any, but you can link those objects to that glossary term as a concept. So basically saying this concept is represented in the data catalog in these objects and used in the whatever reports may be linked to it. So you can get that context of usage there.
And also you can have multiple glossaries, right? That's another good practice, right? To split those.
Yeah, you could have multiple glossaries when that makes sense to do that sort of thing. Brittany talking about acronyms. Yeah, acronyms are useful. Of course, we talked about the idea of using or not using the also known as field for acronyms. There's pros and cons to both ways of that. My way of thinking, the disadvantage of the also known as is it's not searchable in the same way. Since it's a custom field, it has to be searched a different way. Whereas if you create an acronyms term type, then when somebody searches either by the term or by the acronym, it'll be found either way. That's my take on that one. Okay, last point I wanted to make is just remember that linking your objects to your domains and areas is a manual process. So as your data sources may change, you may get new tables or import from another source or something. Those won't automatically be added to your domains and areas. So you need to keep up on that. It's a manual process. In the future, I believe, there will be an addition to the Steward Hub that'll make suggestions and give you a list of objects that have not been linked to any domains. So you can watch for that. Okay. Place for users to make a ticket. You're talking about to like just for in relation to your catalog, right? You can use the
community, right?
Yeah, use the community. I need to change back to a different account here. But yeah, use the community function there to make comments and make suggestions. And that actually is the perfect segue into Piotr's portion of this talk, actually talking about workflows. So I'm gonna hand off to you, Piotr. I'm gonna stop sharing. If you need sharing back on from me, feel free to ask me for it.
Okay. All right. We have 9 minutes, so let me get my screen shared quickly. Okay, I'd like to show you what we have planned for the release, May release, and then I'll talk about what we plan for the future. So, okay, I hope you see my, yeah, you should be seeing my dashboard,
Yes.
right? Okay, so this is a new page available over here in the menu, a new option, Steward Hub. Some of you might have seen the Steward Hub in the desktop in previous versions, and now we're migrating this functionality to the web catalog, to the portal. The Steward Hub will consist of a number of action items for broken by specific module or asset type. And over here you can see glossary. So for glossaries, you can see I have 7 items for review, to review ideas, and 5 items, 5 terms to actually review. This is from the workflows. In previous, the new workflows functionality. Okay, so let me take one step back. In previous release, we have added a status field, a native status field for most of the, if not all of the manual objects. So terms, glossary terms, domains, with subject areas, lookups. Yeah, I think those are the ones. We're also planning to do that for the imported objects. And in this version, in the one we are releasing in May, this status will cause 2 things. One will be will allow you to hide or publish the specific objects for your viewer community, so for the business community. And the other thing is you can put those, the status will put this on someone's to-do list. So over here, this is my to-do list. I have 7 ideas to review, right? Someone has created using Steward Hub suggestions. Someone created an ideas for business terms, and according to the definition of the workflow, this is visible to people who have specific, role. I'll explain that in a second. So yeah, my job is to clean the list over here. Just I click. I can change the status over here on the list. right? I can do it here, or I can go to the page and do it from this page. This field is already available right now, but it doesn't, the functionality to hide is not, and the steward hub is not available. This will be available in a couple of weeks. So let's have a look at the definition of the workflow. We go here. There's you can see here that there's an option to define workflow. Right now we have just one workflow. Workflow in general is a list of statuses. You can we ship the data with those statuses. You can edit the logic, the how the workflows work, and you also can add statuses. But you know we ship it with predefined workflow. So these are the statuses that those objects can take. They can be one of the statuses. There's a description over here. You can define if they are visible. So in our basic workflow, only published objects are not are visible. The rest you can see it as stewards. If you have an editor role in particular domain, or if you see these objects as an editor, you will see all the other ones, but all the viewers only see publish, which is really good because you can you can work on the definitions and publish them once you're done. Over here, we define who can change the status, change the status of the object to the status. So, for instance, only approval can publish or set as ready to publish. You can also over here we define who will see it on the list. If it's unassigned, it means that no one will see it over here, right? Not all of the statuses require attention. Here's also call to action, right? So what's the name of the call to action? Also visible here. And yeah, what's the color, right? So you don't have to edit it. One other thing, when you edit this, you can define who can see it based on 3 different categories. So one is role, the other one is user group, the ones that Richard was discussing, and the third one is custom field. So for instance, you can choose owner, steward, technical, subject matter expert, whatever field you create, right? So you can, it's quite elastic, like that. All right, so that's what we are shipping right now. Any questions to that part?
I'll just say that I'm very excited for this. That very last thing you talked about, defining that by groups and custom fields, that makes it so that as people come and go, as long as they're in that role, they'll have access to it. You don't have to do a lot of maintenance to upkeep that sort of context.
Yeah, and
I'm excited.
And also for the future, so related with the previous question, is that we would like to add an option to suggest change. So let's say I don't like this description. As a viewer, I'll have as an editor, I can just edit this, and as a viewer, I will this will not say save, but it will say suggest change, and it will go to the dashboard of someone, according to this workflow, probably someone who has permission to approve it. There will be some list of suggestions. Then this suggestion will be saved. And another type would be a request for documentation. So if it's empty or if it's incorrect, I can always also, another type would be, hey, please provide more information or provide the documentation. Yeah, that's to documentation. If you would like to create requests for, I don't know, new report and or something similar. We had a discussion with this about this last week, and we are thinking about building a module for like a tickets or service desk or something like that for data. But we had a challenge. We're thinking maybe it's better to integrate it with Jira or something like that, because maybe you can comment on it right now. If there was such a functionality, would your community use Dataedo or rather something that you're using right now?
That's good. So I think that not only is this valuable in and of itself, I think an an added value to this is it encourages your users to not only be users and consumers of this, they start to participate and feel like they have a bit of ownership in it. You create data citizens out of your users and get them involved even more. So you get their perspectives. You also get them engaged and constantly coming back to use the catalog. So I think that's an added value there. All right, I believe we're at time. So as always, if any of you have comments, questions, reach out to me, richard@dataedo.com. If you have problems, support@dataedo.com. Thanks for being here, and hope this has been useful to you today.